I think I can boldly assume that most people have encountered obstacles in their lives. Stop and think about a time when you faced an obstacle. What did you do when you encountered it? What did you learn from it? Typically, when we encounter an obstacle, the thoughts that immediately pop into our mind are probably fear of rejection and denial, and emotions such as anxiety and embarrassment comes along. These feelings and experiences, in my opinion, are important components in our lives because they teach us important lessons. They might change the way we look at the world, and they might change the way we treat others. Today, I'm going to be sharing a story about the obstacle that I faced and the lesson that I learned from it. The story starts in fall 2014, when I started high school. I went to an international high school in Taiwan, and my school focuses a lot on sports, especially swimming, which was something that I was super duper poor at. Before coming to this high school, I came from a middle school where we didn't even have a sports field. Had to take a bus somewhere else for swimming lessons, and we only had 4 swimming lessons per semester. Girls can easily get away with swimming lessons with the excuse of having their period. But in my high school, things were different. We had a 2-period swimming lesson every week, and students were divided into different swimming levels by their swimming caps. How does that work? There are 5 colors of swimming caps: white, yellow, blue, red, and black. White caps are for the students who swim for less than 25 meters in freestyle. Yellow caps are for the students who can swim freestyle and backstroke for 25 meters or more. Blue caps are for the students who can swim freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke for 25 meters or more. And red caps are for the students who can swim freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly for 25 meters or more. And black caps are for the students who can do everything that I've mentioned above, plus swimming in less than 50 seconds for 50 meters in freestyle. And a star added to your cap every time you reduce 10 seconds in your 100 meters freestyle. And guess what? I could only swim for 10 meters when I first got into high school. And yes, that got me a white cap. Because of this, I was super nervous on my first swimming lesson because walking around the swimming pool with my swimming cap on, everybody knew how bad I was at swimming. But what's even worse was that on my first swimming lesson, my coach asked the students who got a white cap to stand up in front of all the students, which was approximately 100 people. And I was the only one who stood up, which means that I was the only person who got a white cap. And even though later I found out that there was another girl who also got a white cap, but she was absent that day. Anyway, my coach asked me to stand up in front of the crowd, and she warned the rest of the students in a joking manner to be aware of me because I was going to surpass everyone soon. Everyone laughed. I felt so embarrassed that I later cried in the changing room. And don't get me wrong, I'm not here to accuse my coach or my peers for not being the nicest people. And I'm not mad at them, and I was never mad at them. I was just regretting my choice of coming to this school and being clueless about how to survive the rest of my swimming classes, which I will be having every week for the rest of my 4 years. Because I was in the lowest level, it was mandatory for me to take extra swimming lessons. That wasn't bad. And with the extra 2 periods of swimming lessons every week, I improved significantly. By the end of the semester, we had the level testing again, and I improved 1 level. I got the yellow cap. Besides the level testing, we had another test for swimming, and that was to swim for 1,000 meters for an hour, swim for at least 1,000 meters for an hour without stopping. I was terrified. I thought that there was no way I could make it. I was fully, absolutely, totally prepared for the worst, and that was not being able to pass the test. Surprisingly, I swam for an hour with the score of 104,000 meters, which was pretty bad compared to my peers because most of them swam way farther than me. But it was awfully good considering that I could only swim for 10 meters 3 months ago. I was super relieved to know that I could improve in swimming. But that certainly doesn't mean that I'm done with swimming, because the swimming competition was coming up. We had a mandatory swimming competition the semester after, and I remember myself standing in front of the swimming lane, waiting for my turn, and feeling like I was shivering to death because I was so nervous. I wasn't, and I would never aim for the first place. I knew I was going to be the last one, and I accepted that. All I wanted was to not be too far behind the second last person so it wouldn't be too embarrassing. The competition went fine. I was the last one, just as I expected. And I figured out that no one really pays attention to the last person, so that was great because all I wanted was to not be noticed and just to get done with what was supposed to be done. Now that I'm done with high school, I'm very thankful that I went to a school that pushed me way out of my comfort zone, forced me into the swimming pool, and made me feel embarrassed, scared, nervous. And of course, taught me how to swim. Otherwise, I would never know how to swim, and I would probably be clueless about the topic for this TED Talk. But that certainly weren't the only things that I got out of the swimming pool. Because I had the experience of being thrown into an absolutely embarrassing situation, I knew how it felt to be in that position. For example, once we had to play a game during a swimming lesson where we had to swim in pairs and pass balls to each other at the same time. By the way, I feel like a seal playing a ball in an aquarium. A friend of mine was the last one in our lane, so our coach yelled at her saying, "Hey, stop swimming like you're on vacation." She was embarrassed. I understood how she felt because I was once in that position, but our coach wasn't. It just seemed impossible for our coach to understand why my friend couldn't swim faster because he had never experienced swimming as an obstacle. I'm sure my coach didn't yell at my friend for the purpose of embarrassing her. He just had the trouble of looking at the world from the perspective of a person who doesn't swim fast. Therefore, he chose to yell at my friend because he thought that she swam slow by choice. And he didn't know that calling out my friend in front of 100 people could possibly embarrass her. The same idea could apply to what happened on my first swimming lesson. If my coach knew how it felt to not be able to swim fast, she wouldn't ask me to stand up in front of the crowd and make jokes about me being the slowest swimmer in the pool. And if my peers, who are incredible swimmers, I have to say, knew how it feels to not be able to swim fast, then they wouldn't respond to my coach's joke with laughter. It is impossible for us to experience all the possible difficulties in the world, and we wouldn't want to experience them either. But that doesn't mean that we can be sympathetic towards the people who have experienced difficulties that we've never experienced. And that certainly doesn't mean that joking about others' difficulties is an okay thing to do because we don't think it's a big deal. If we could not only think twice before we judge or before we make jokes, but actually stand in other people's shoes, try to look at the world from the perspective of the person receiving the seemingly innocent but actually harmful jokes, the world is going to be a better place. This sounds like a cliche, but the world is going to be a better place if we could care about others' feelings more. In the end, I want to thank my sister for discussing this topic with me. We share a lot of similar experiences, not only because she wasn't a good swimmer either, but because the lessons that we've learned from these experiences are similar. I especially admire her because she always stands in other people's shoes, tries to understand other people's difficulties, even when that person is having an opposing interest with her. Now that I'm standing here talking about being nice, standing in other people's shoes, but I'm far from perfect. I'm still working on it. I'm still learning how to be a better person from interacting with others in my daily life, and I still got a long way to go. But this is the direction that I'm heading towards, and I hope that this is the goal that we are all working towards. Thank you.